The dream may look too big. Keep believing it's coming together. God has a way. That addiction you've been trying to break for years, don't give up. Keep prophesying freedom is coming together. See, when you realize that God's in control, that He's directing your steps, that He's already lined up everything you need, then you can relax. You don't have to go through life trying to make it all happen on your own, worried about your children, frustrated because it's taken too long, discouraged because a dream looks dead. No, keep reminding yourself, the sovereign Lord, the God who breathed life into you, the God who knew you before you were born, the God who has planned out your days for good, the God who has protected you, promoted you, healed you, the same God that brought you to where you are, He's going to get you to where you're supposed to be. It may take a little longer than you thought, but that's okay. God's timing is the perfect time. God's ways are not our ways. They are better than our ways. It's coming together. When my father went to be with the Lord in 1999, I knew I was supposed to step up to pastor the church. I felt it so strongly, but I didn't know if I could do it. I liked being behind the scenes. That's where I'd spent the last 17 years doing the television production at the church and editing my father's sermons. But I took that step of faith, not knowing what was going to happen. And looking back now, I can see how God was guiding me all that time. When I edited my father's sermons, I would have to listen to them each probably 5 or 6 times to cut them down to time. All those years, those scriptures, those stories were going into me over and over, getting me prepared for what I'm doing now. I never dreamed I would become a minister, but it all came together. What I needed, God had already put in me. Never dreamed we'd have church in the former compact center, but it all came together more than we could ask or think. Are you worrying about your future? Worried about how you're going to accomplish a dream? How you're going to raise your children? How you're ever going to meet the right person? God has already lined it up. He's already arranged everything you need. Like with me, you may not even realize how right now God is getting you prepared for something much greater, much bigger than you've ever dreamed. Keep honoring Him. Keep being your best. Keep prophesying life to those dead areas. You too are going to see it all come together more than you imagine. Our daughter Alexandra was 2 months old when my father died, and Jonathan was 3. Our lives had suddenly changed. We had a lot more responsibility, pastoring a large church, plus never having ministered before made it even more stressful. We knew we were going to need some help with our children. Like any parent, we were very picky. We wanted to find the perfect person, very loving and kind, that would treat them the way we did. We didn't really know where to start. One Sunday, Victoria was leaving church, walking by the platform. She saw this young man that she had seen there many times. He seemed very nice and wholesome, always faithful. Victoria went over and struck up a conversation, eventually asking what his mother did for a living. He said she doesn't have a full-time job. She does a lot of volunteering work. Victoria told that we were looking for somebody. Long story short, we met her and things fell into place. She was a perfect fit. Our children loved her like our own family. She was always laughing, loving, easygoing. You couldn't find a better person. About a year after she started working for us, she told how years earlier she had had a dream one night where she was taking care of a beautiful, blue-eyed, blonde-haired baby girl. She's Hispanic. She has 2 sons of her own. She didn't understand what the dream meant. But when she saw little Alexandra, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, she said, "That's the baby that I saw in my dream." What am I saying? God has the right people already lined up for you. At the right time, it's all going to come together. You don't have to worry. You don't have to live stressed out. God is directing your steps. He controls the whole universe. You can stay in a place of peace. In the scripture, a lady named Ruth lost her husband. She was out in the fields picking up leftover grain, trying to survive, just barely making it. Boaz, the owner of those fields, spoke to his workers about Ruth, telling them to leave wheat on the ground on purpose for Ruth to make it easier on her. He didn't speak to Ruth, he spoke about Ruth. She never heard what he said, but her life got a whole lot easier. She had more wheat than she needed. She was finished in half the time, all because somebody she didn't even know put in a good word for her. In the same way, God has already spoken to the right people to be good to you, to bless you, to show you favor, to open the right doors. Like Ruth, suddenly you come into blessings that you didn't work for. People go out of their way to help you succeed. You may never know why it happened. That's God working behind the scenes, bringing it all together. As a young man, God put a dream in Moses' heart that he would deliver the people of Israel out of slavery. But Moses got in a hurry and didn't wait for God's timing. He saw a Hebrew slave being mistreated by one of the foremen. He didn't think anybody was watching. He went over and killed that foreman, trying to help his Hebrew brother out. Moses ended up having to flee for his life. He spent 40 years in hiding on the backside of the desert. Looked like he had missed his destiny. I'm sure he felt like a failure. Thoughts telling him, too bad, Moses. You had your chance. That mistake really did you in. Moses was raised in the palace, in the household of the Pharaoh. He was trained to be a prince, educated by the best scholars, spoke different languages. He was gifted, talented, prepared to do something great. But now, instead of wearing his royal robe, he's got on an old dirty, smelly piece of cloth that he found on the ground. Instead of conducting his business in the palace where he's esteemed and respected, now he spends his days taking care of sheep, shoveling their waste out in the middle of the desert. Year after year went by. Moses thought, I must have heard God wrong. Maybe I was never supposed to deliver the people of Israel. Maybe I'm not supposed to do something great. What was I thinking? Just when he was about to give up, suddenly a bush exploded, caught on fire right in front of him. This bush burned and burned, but it wouldn't burn up. Moses thought, what in the world is going on? He went over to get a better look at it. When he did, a voice boomed out saying, Moses, Moses, take off your sandals. You are standing on holy ground. God was saying, Moses, I haven't forgotten about you. You may have made some mistakes. You may have taken some wrong turns, but get ready. I'm about to bring it together. What I promised you, I'm still going to bring to pass. After 40 years of not seeing anything happening, suddenly God turned it around. Moses went out and delivered the people of Israel. You may think, Joel, it could never come together for me. It's been too long. You've made too many mistakes. You've missed too many opportunities. In your heart, you know what God has promised you. But in your mind, the enemy will whisper these thoughts of doubt. Maybe I'm not supposed to get married. Maybe I'm not supposed to break this addiction. Maybe I'm not supposed to start my own business. Deep down, you feel seeds of greatness stirring on the inside. But every circumstance says, no way, it's too late. But just like with Moses, what God promised you, He's still going to do. It may not have happened yet, but don't worry, it's coming together. God is still on the throne. He sent me as your burning bush to let you know it's not too late. You haven't missed your destiny. You haven't seen your best days. What God started in your life, He's going to finish. You're about to see a divine coming together. That means it's supernatural. You couldn't make it happen. You didn't have the strength, the talent, the funds. God set the bush on fire. God healed you. God sent the right people. God brought your dream to pass. In the scripture, Jacob thought his son Joseph was dead. Joseph's brothers brought his bloody robe and told their father that Joseph had been killed by a wild animal. The truth is, they had sold Joseph into slavery. Jacob was so heartbroken. The father so devastated. He thought he couldn't go on after losing his youngest son. Year after year passed by. Now Jacob is an old man. Those same brothers brought him the news that Joseph indeed was still alive and in charge of the nation of Egypt. Jacob was overwhelmed. They took him to see his son. He said, "Joseph, I never thought I'd see your face again. But not only did I get to see you, I got to see my grandchildren." When God brings it all together, it's not going to be what you thought. It's going to be bigger, better, more rewarding than you ever expected.